Good morning. Welcome back to another edition of Bernal Connect. I am here with the ever so lovely Tracy. Tracy, how are you?
Good. Just wrapping up. We're just getting ready to do a couple of vacations in the summertime. It feels like a lot of people are out of town lately, and so we'll be one of them soon. And sad to leave the Bay, but we need a little break. It's been kind of a long first few months of the year, I would say. How about you, Mike?
Um, we're out of town.
Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter's a big anime fan, so we went down to LA, uh, went to an anime conference, and then because, it's not hot enough in LA, we just then went over to Palm Springs. So we're hanging out in 110-degree heat and, not actually venturing outside. So I don't understand the logic behind it, but who am I to, question those types of things? So Tracy, who do we have with us today?
Yeah, we've got Katie Furukawa. She is the wife of one of our previous guests, Adrian. And she doesn't do what Adrian does, not in marketing, but has something very, very interesting to share. So, Katie, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and your business?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on today. My name is Katie Furukawa Bonifacio, and I am the owner, proprietor, whatever you want to call it, of Old River Design Company. Old River is what Furukawa means in Japanese. So that's where the name comes from. My overarching thing is I work with Japanese textiles. So I create accessories and home goods and sell them at craft fairs and things and on my website. I also teach beginner sewing classes, primarily at the Japanese Culture and Community Center of Northern California in Japantown. And so a lot of our projects are kind of like inspired by Japanese culture. And then I also am transitioning into being what I like to call a fabric dealer. So selling Japanese textiles, craft kits, and things of that nature from Japan. So my current dream goal is to open a fabric shop here in the city.
So as a fabric dealer, do you give them the first one free to get them hooked?
Yeah.
Luckily, most of the people I meet are already hooked.
Yeah. And are you seeing sort of a return to like, some traditional values of creating things from, like the fabrics of their culture and things like that?
Um, I don't know if I'd say it's like a return to traditional values necessarily, but definitely, well, there's a couple of concurrent things going on. One is really a desire for a lot of people to maybe not be on their phone, on their computer, online so much, and really ground
Yeah, we don't
themselves
understand that. So
that are not as digitally forward, especially with folks who have grown up with digital like their entire life. Just kind of learning how to balance those things is definitely something that I'm seeing a lot of desire for. So working with our hands in whatever capacity. And then I think that living in the Bay Area, it is a very multicultural place, and that is something that is really a conducive environment to feeling like we're able to be free to explore either our own heritage or another culture and really like get into those nuances and start to understand like for instance with the Japanese fabrics, like there's certain designs and motifs and like what do those things mean, and how can we honor those things.
who taught you to sew?
Who Mostly YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom was a quilter growing up, and she was actually like a home ec major, which is a thing that doesn't exist anymore. Um, but I was like too cool to learn how to sew for my mom. Like there were other things to do. There were sports to play, and what mom does isn't cool. So when I was about 25, I was like working a corporate job, and I was like, I would like to find a hobby that I enjoy. And so it was like my New Year's resolution. I was like, I'm going to make a quilt this year. And I started doing that, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
My
Amazing.
sister's a quilter, and there's like pieces all over the house,
Yeah,
of various in various stages of completion.
yeah.
Um, and I think many of them don't ever quite make it to completion.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, what really drew me to quilting specifically was just kind of the process of making a quilt. I'm actually trained as an architect, and so the process of designing and envisioning, kind of like playing with color and how does it come together, that all like I get to scratch that itch with making a quilt. But even though they take a while, they come together much faster than a building does, and I don't really have to like rely on another team to get it done. It's like solely my vision. So that's I think what like really hooked me and like kept me going with quilting. And then when I got to the point where I was taking like time off from work just to have time to sew, I was like, how do I make this my job? And quilts are a lot harder to sell, so that's why I don't really sell quilts. But I love the kind of like more instant gratification of being able to start and finish something in a single day, and that's what I get to do with the accessories and the home goods.
How long does
It,
it take you to do a quilt? I mean, to build one, and what hours are you working during the day to sew the quilt?
Oh, yeah. I mean, quilting is one of those things that's kind of like always there for you when you need it or want it. And so I have some quilts where the top of the quilt it's come together in like one weekend, and some quilts that have taken me like 6 years to do because like I'll set it aside or I get to something that I can't figure out how to do, or it's like a little bit beyond my skill level at the time. And then like I come back to it later. Um, the other thing is just like when you look at any garment, anything that's made out of textiles, look at how many seams there are, and basically seams equals time. So if it's got a lot of little pieces, it's going to take a lot longer to create than something with big pieces.
and when you were quilting, did you begin with Japanese fabrics, or how did you evolve into Japanese fabrics?
No, not really. I um got really into like I was really drawn to I still am. I'm drawn to very like bright, bold colors and prints. And when you think of Japanese fabrics, you don't always think of that. But that's kind of like what I got like hooked on, so to speak. And so my first quilts were kind of all made out of that. And then when I started my business, I wasn't really quite sure what direction I was going to go in. I actually started like my first line was like greeting cards. But I have been active in the Japanese American community basically my whole life. And in my adult life for the last 20 years, I've been really active in San Francisco, Japantown. And so um, I just started kind of, putting things out and seeing how people responded. And my mom had this like trove of what we would now call vintage fabrics that she had collected. And so I took a couple of them and I was like, I'm going to make something and try it out. And I was fortunate enough to have a friend who was involved with the Cherry Blossom Festival, and she offered me a spot in the festival. And so I made a bunch of stuff. And what people really resonated with was the stuff that had a story and the stuff that I like, had an interesting connection to and that I was like really excited to talk about. And it turns out that those things were the Japanese textiles. And so I quickly kind of said, let's follow this little rabbit hole here and see where it goes. And that's kind of how I ended up in the Japanese textile world. But it's a fascinating to me it's a fascinating thing. And there's when you think of Japanese fabrics, a lot of people think of like indigo and like taupe and natural dyes, and that's definitely a part of it. But when I bring fabrics in from Japan, I really look for things that maybe are going to be a little bit brighter, bolder, something that matches my style, and things that like help me tell a story. So I will pick out like things with like little food and like there's this festival actually in July called Tanabata in Japan, and it's like kind of like the motifs are around like stars and whatnot. And so like I'll bring in something like that, which you don't normally find here. And so I get really excited when somebody sees a piece of mine and they recognize like one of those little cultural nods or references in the fabric, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is perfect." Because I do spend a lot of time explaining to people too, like, "Hey, this is." They're like, "What is this? Why is this here?" And explaining that, and that's fun. But whenever I do meet those people that like instantly like get it and they like
Super
see
fans.
principles and
Yeah.
their culture reflected in something unexpected, that makes me really excited.
Do you go on buying trips?
I don't have
Okay.
enough time to both source fabric in Japan and make things. So I work with somebody to import it. It's kind of a whole process. I have to order several months in advance. So
Like, do you see a difference in the kind of quality of the fabrics here that are made, sourced and made in I mean, in America versus in Japan? Like, can someone like a layperson, like, how do they know what's the difference in high
yeah,
quality?
I think that if you touch fabric, if you can touch it, you can tell. Like, there's actually not that much fabric made in America these days. But as far as what's like commercially available in America, a lot of that, I mean, it's made all over the world, really, like India, China, Vietnam, Korea, Japan. Those are all places that I know that are big with textiles and stuff. And every like there's different weights and quality levels and things like that that things come into. But if you think to like RIP Joanne's Fabrics, which no longer exists, like you can get you used to be able to get that fabric, and I guess Michael's now like carries it. But like if you hold that up to the light, you can like see through it,
Hmm.
like versus like most of the fabrics I bring in, like they're you hold it up and it's not see through and whatnot. And I fully believe in like working with what you can afford and what you've got. Um, I also do like a whole range of things that are like upcycled textiles and whatnot. But at the same time, especially with quilt making, for me, like if I'm going to spend all that time on something, I don't want the fabric to fray and fall apart after a year. I am not going to make another one of those. I rarely ever make this. I don't think I actually have ever made the same quilt twice. And so if I'm going to spend time on that, then I want it to last.
And how did you go from YouTube videos to teaching?
That's kind of an interesting story. So I taught myself how to sew mostly from YouTube videos and things. And like my mom gave me like a 20-minute tutorial on how to use a rotary cutter so I wouldn't like she was worried I was gonna cut my hand off. And then yeah, it was just kind of years of experimentation and whatnot. And when I moved to San Jose briefly for a couple of years, which was not because of, but coincided with the pandemic. And so when I came back to San Francisco, I reconnected with some friends, and one of them happened to work at the community center in Japantown. And he was like, I've always wanted to have like a sewing class where we could make hobby coats, which are these really lightweight coats that you wear at summer festivals. And, like you're doing this sewing thing, like, would you consider teaching? And I was like, yeah. But I was like, there's a lot of things that like we need to get figured out because while I was in San Jose, also I worked at a sewing machine store briefly, like after I quit my full time job. And so I learned how to kind of not how to fix machines, but by intaking them for the technician, learning about common trouble with machines and things like that. And I realized like, wow, I actually do know more than I thought I did because I had not been formally trained, I just assumed I didn't really know much. But there's something to be said for just, when you put in the time, you start to learn things. And so that my friend in Japantown, when he approached me about this, I said, yeah, like I'd love to do this, but like here's some things I know. Number one, like in the city, especially, like a lot of people don't have room for a sewing machine in their house if they're not sure they're going to use it a lot. And so I would like to teach people who like I just kind of looked around at the people around me, right? Like that most people my age don't really sew. Um, it's not something we grew up like learning in school or anything like that, the way my mom did. And so I was like, we have to meet people where they're at and really like create like kind of be the change, so to speak, that we want to see. And so I was like, if we're going to offer classes, we need to have like machines for people to use rather than asking people to invest in a machine and bring it with them.
Mm.
So we applied for a grant actually and received a grant where we were able to purchase a set of classroom machines and tools and irons and accessories and things. And so that has really kind of been my foundation in terms of like how I approach the classes and what kind of projects we do. It's like, okay, given the tools that we have, like what can we make? So yeah.
And how do you keep people encouraged? Because I know like anybody who starts a new hobby, they're all enthusiastic and then they make their first whatever and it's just not there. You know what I mean? It doesn't have they look at yours and then they look at theirs and they're like, So like how do you sort of help them through that?
Yeah, I have a very informal teaching style, and so like I really try to create an environment where like it's okay to make mistakes, and actually like when people make mistakes, it helps us all learn. Um, we tend to remember the things we failed at more than the things we didn't have to try to learn. And so I build time into the classes to like for, having to rip out a seam or something like that. Like I always build in extra time so that we can do that. And then, I help people out. I'm not just like, oh, well, fix it. Right. Like I'm there to do that. And I always set expectations around making sure that uh, we're in a mindset of like, hey, what we're learning, nothing has to be perfect. Um, I always remind people to like, if you're sewing something and you have something that you feel like is not perfect, like it's handmade, it's not factory made. And so like that should show. And so, yeah, I also have set up a curriculum where I teach a like introduction to sewing basics course multiple times a year. And that really helps people get comfortable with using the sewing machine so that when they show up to like more project-based classes, they have like some sort of frame of reference.
And I understand there's like, you only get to cut once, right, when it comes to
Yeah.
fabric. So tell us about that and sort of what's your philosophy so that, like you're not regretting you just cut up, yards of material incorrectly or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing that you can't really take back. You can undo a seam and redo it and adjust the sizing or whatever, but you can't uncut fabric. And so yeah, I mean, depending on the class, like a lot of times I'll just cut the fabric for folks if they involve like intricate pattern pieces. And so I'll just like cut it ahead of time so that they don't have to worry or be as nervous about it. It kind of depends on the class and then also on like the who the students are as far as like there's some students I have and they're like, I want to do everything myself. And some students who are like, I just want to do the parts that I like, which is totally valid. Um, but because I have such an abundance of fabric around me, like if I make a mistake, then I've usually got something I can sub out. So it's not, and then I'll take that piece that was too small or whatever and figure something else to do with it.
What do you do
But
with it, Kate? Like, what happens to all those scrap pieces?
yeah, so actually in my
The
business, all
quilts.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but actually none of my offcuts go to landfill. That's one of my like guiding kind of principles with how I run things. And so yeah, like I have certain products that I make that use bigger pieces of fabric, and I cut those out first, and then from those there's little offcuts, and then those get turned into things. Sometimes those things end up becoming more popular than the original product. Um, I also use like little bitty bits that can't really be used for anything as stuffing for like cushions and mats and things like that. And I work with somebody in San Jose who donates them to classrooms for like soft play areas for like reading corners in children's classrooms and whatnot. And then, yeah, like I just also led a series of workshops at the San Mateo County Libraries, and we took I don't have any with me, but we made rope bowls out of little like you just need little bitty bits, like long strips of fabric. So when you're squaring something up, you end up with a lot of those. And we use those to make decorative rope bowls and things. So yeah, and then sometimes like once or twice a year, I usually have like a sale where like you can come and shop my scrap bin and like fill a bag for like $8 and like shove as much stuff as you want in there. Because uh, I'm definitely at the point where I don't always have enough time to execute the vision that I have. So, um, yeah.
So, Katie, it sounds like you got a lot going on. Where can people learn more if they're interested?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's oldriverdesign.co. And I'm on Instagram, Old River Design Co.
And we'll
And
put
you,
that below so you guys can find it.
yeah, and then locally in the neighborhood, you can find me vending. There's a kind of collective of folks who vend at the Baukunst space on
The Bernal
Cortland Avenue.
Marketplace.
Yeah, so sometimes when my schedule allows,
Second Saturday of the month?
it's kind of when we can get the space and
Okay.
when they have bandwidth. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'm there, and then I also run my own little market now. It's called Sachi's Sunny Space. Sachi's my dog, and we host that in our yard. So we just
And
had
is
our
that
first
on your
one.
website as well? So when you're hosting one
Yeah,
of those?
it's on the website, and it's just kind of my contribution to the neighborhood and the community to get people kind of out of their house, getting to know each other, and getting to interact with great artists and makers.
And
And the
Hillway Garage Sale, right? Katie, you also do that.
Yeah, I will be at the garage sale. I'm contemplating doing a big fundraiser fabric sale for that. So I'm trying to get the details together for that.
and the workshops that you mentioned, are they on your website or would you refer us
Yeah,
to?
you can find them on my website. You sign up directly through the center, and their website is jccccnc.org. So that's three C's and then an NC.
And you indicated that you were here in the city for a while and then you were down in San Jose and came back to the city. So tell us your Bernal story.
Yeah, so I lived in San Francisco, just down the street in Noe Valley, for about 10 years. And then because of the job that I had, I moved to San Jose. And then when my husband and I got married about 2.5 years ago, we moved to Bernal Heights, and we've been here ever since. Um, and yeah, we really like it, but
And
there's no,
what's your favorite eatery?
oh, I mean, I like to eat.
This is the pressure. This is the pressure part of the interview.
Big
Right.
question.
So we when my friends come to visit, we like to go to the rabbit hole a lot, just because it's like convenient and there's something for everybody there, and they have like an outdoor patio. I also like I spent a semester studying in Italy, so I'm really picky about Italian food, but I love Vega. And the waiters love my dog, so we eat outside there sometimes, so that's always fun.
Tracy, what about you? What's coming? I know you're heading out of town, but anything else coming up for you?
No, I'm just gonna say like really quick a reminder for folks to our kids story time at the library. I mean, I have to say like the SF public library system is like elite, the elite of all public library systems I've been a part of. And so just a reminder to check out the website for any upcoming events. But Tuesday and Thursday is toddler story time, early afternoon. Wednesdays for baby story time. Take advantage of that. And then Saturday as well as family story time. So
And there's a
if you
plant
want to
swap coming up too, right?
one more time. Yeah,
A
Plant
pl
Swap is also coming up as
Yeah, I
well.
want to say it's not next Sunday, but the Sunday after. Is that about right? Maybe. And then
How was one day cleanup night for you?
yeah. So, it's finally kind of quiet. Thank goodness. We survived one city day, but one city day was great. It was an opportunity for folks around the city to support 170 projects with over 4,000 volunteers that participated. So that was a great success, and we're very thrilled with that. You may have noticed that it resulted in yet another set of planters on Cortland for traffic calming. So we're excited about that. I know that the folks are working on the space in front of Moonlight to do an on-street mural, which again is another traffic calming, and that's being done by SF Beautiful or Bernal Beautiful. Bernal Beautiful, I think. Sorry if I got that wrong. But that Janet Yu is leading that effort. So we will be seeing a new mural on Portland. We're excited about that. We have the Hillwide garage sale coming up soon. So we all look forward to that. We have the Fiesta in September and a couple other events. All these are always on our calendar. If you want to learn more about Katie, we will put a link below to both her website and some of the other resources that she mentioned. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. If you like what we're talking about, if you want to be a guest, just reach out below and we'll be happy to get back to you. Everybody have a great week, and it's always a pleasure to see you, Tracy and Katie. Nice to meet you.